Good morning. Welcome to chapel. Welcome back from fall break. Know that you are welcome here, whoever you are, whoever you know yourself to be, whoever you are becoming. Special welcome today to members of our Luther College Board of Regents who are in session, and to guests on campus who are participating in today's admissions events. And because I don't think I've actually said it yet this semester, also welcome to those of you who are joining us via live stream. We are so glad that we are able to extend the reach of our community beyond the walls of the CFL. So we are so glad you are all here this morning. For chapel today, all you need is a hymn insert available from the carts on your way into the space. Because we are just returning from fall break and getting back into routine, this is just your reminder about all of the things available to you through college ministries. You're invited to join us Mondays during chapel break for Fika, which is coffee and treats outside the CFL at 10:30, and then Monday evenings at 8 o'clock in the CFL Recital Hall for Emmaus, which is our evening communion worship, and then chapel here in the main hall Wednesday and Friday mornings at 10:30. All are welcome to all of these. Even if you haven't joined us for some of these things yet this semester, it is not too late. We want to extend the welcome to you. This morning, we are so excited to welcome as our speaker Bishop Felix Malpica. He gets to wear a lot of hats here. He is the current bishop of the La Crosse Area Synod of the ELCA. He is a Luther alum, and he is currently sitting on the Board of Regents. So you're here in like 3 official capacities all at once today. We're so glad you're joining us. He's just come off a week of doing bishopy things for his synod at their fall theological conference and kind of blew through home and now is here with us in Decorah. We're also so grateful for those who are leading music this morning, for our college organist Alex Mesler and for Aurora, our first year treble choir directed by Adriana Tam. As we gather and get centered for worship, I invite you to stand as you are able. Or just take a moment to get our hearts quieted and grounded for worship. Invite you to find your balance in the space. Feel your feet supported by the floor underneath you. You can close your eyes if it feels good to do so. Roll your shoulders, maybe shake out your hands. For these next moments, you're invited to release whatever it is that you've carried into this space. Take a moment to breathe deeply and just to appreciate the quiet. Blessed are you, creating God, source and ground of life and of hope. Bless us this day in what we know, where we've come from, and who we are. And bless us in what we will learn, and where we are going, and who we will be. Open our hearts this day to your Spirit moving within us, and among us, and through us, out into this world. Amen. We'll join together in singing our opening song, May This Church Be Like a Tree. We will join in verses 1 and 2, and just note that you have to flip it over to get to the refrain. So verses 1 and 2 and refrain of May This Church Be Like a Tree.
may be seated. Hello and welcome. Good morning. As you heard, I'm Felix Malpica, Bishop of the La Crosse Area Synod. It is a joy to be with you. When Melissa asked me to speak, she gave me this little prompt of what is opening the eyes of your heart? What has caused you to see, experience the world in a different way? And come up with a text, whatever it is. Speak on something that brings you joy. And one of my favorite images that Jesus uses to explain how God is at work in the world has to do with wine. Jesus has been doing ministry with people. He's been going and meeting with, well, those people. He's been meeting with the people that the institution didn't really want him to be meeting with, eating with, spending time with, and they're getting really uncomfortable because Jesus is up to something new, and it's causing some conflict. Jesus is inviting new voices, new people to engage because God is up to the work of creating this world where there is peace, where there is love, where there is justice for everyone. And well, that makes people who have power, who have privilege, who have created institutions that are kind of fixed, uncomfortable because it means they will have to change. And so as the people in power are watching Jesus, they're starting to grumble and say, look at him going and dining with those people. And so eventually Jesus says, you know, the way God works in the world, it's kind of like wine. It's kind of like when you put new wine into an old wineskin. It's gonna just rupture and burst. You can't do it that way. If you've got new wine, you have to put it in a new, fresh wineskin. And at first, I didn't understand what this meant until I got into winemaking a few years ago. And there's this thing with wine, right? When wine is fresh, when wine is new, it's creating gas. So it's expanding, and an old wineskin means that it's old leather, and old leather is hard. And so when you put new wine that is active, that is breathing, that is expanding, if you have a hard leather vessel, it can't stretch. It can't move, and so eventually it will burst. It will rupture. And so if you've got this new wine that's up to something, that's working, that's stretching, that's breathing, it has to be in some new supple leather that has the ability to take that movement that's happening to stretch and move and grow. I love that Jesus is kind of like this new wine that's working within, moving, stretching, and making us a little bit uncomfortable, because stretching hurts. I don't know about you, but in the morning when I wake up and I try to touch my toes, ow! And what's your first reaction when you stretch a little bit too far and it starts to hurt? You recoil. You move back. You say, wait a minute, this hurts, this is painful, I don't want to be a part of this. But something exciting is happening in that stretch, because I believe that right now God is up to something. God is stretching the world right now, and all of these institutions are feeling the stretch. Luther College is feeling the stretch. I'm sure you're feeling the stretch personally at home or at school, at work. The church is feeling the stretch, that God is actively doing something and we don't know quite where it's heading, and that's really scary, and it causes us to recoil and try to force it and say, no, don't move me too far, this hurts. But if we keep that heavy-handed, fixed posture, we might eventually burst, and we might not be paying attention to what God is up to in the world. What new voices might God be stretching us to listen to? What new places might God be pushing us, nudging us to engage, to feel, to sense? Where is that place where God might be moving us in a new direction? And how can we remain flexible in order to have the eyes of our hearts, the ears of our hearts attentive to the will of what God might be up to in the world, so that we can participate in that amazing work of making a world where there is peace, where there is love, where there is justice, not just for the few, but for all, and a really expansive all that might just include those people. Whatever those people might be for you, God is calling us into something new. And one of the little pieces of advice that I got really early on in my ministry that I will always hold with me, I was an intern at a church, and the matriarch of the church came in. And I was like, okay, you have lived a life, you are wise. What might you teach a young 20-something pastor who's got a lot of ministry ahead of him? And she didn't skip a beat. She said, I know what you need in order for you to remain successful and to pay attention. Stay flexible, because that way you'll never get bent out of shape. And it has been one of the most valuable little pieces of advice I've ever received in my life. Stay flexible, because then you'll never get bent out of shape. Because it's in those times, in those places where you're starting to feel stretched, that it might just be that nudging of the Spirit, that God is up to something, pushing you, stretching you, and you just might be on the verge of experiencing something new, something graceful, experiencing new life in and through God in the many and various ways that might happen. And so when you ask, how have I seen, experienced that happened here for me. I was stretched in a new direction. I'm not Norwegian. I had no idea what a Norwegian was, actually, before I moved here. And yet, there was a bit of a stretch there. How does a young Puerto Rican kid land in Decorah, Iowa, and find a home? But this place stretched me. This place formed me. This place allowed for me to move into new places that I did not understand. I remember being a part of the music program here and being taught about opera and saying, classical music was not my thing at all. I didn't get it. I didn't understand it. I came from global music, and that stretched me. It formed me. And at first, when I felt that rub, I wanted to recoil. But when I embraced it, when I allowed for it to pull me, to stretch me, I found new facets of myself that I didn't know were possible, and has made me appreciate a fuller sense of what it means to participate in God's work in the world. So, pay attention. Where are you being stretched? Where might God be pushing you, stretching within you? Where is Jesus actively at work? And pay attention. Let your eyes of your heart be attentive to that place and see where God might be stretching you to new life next. Amen.
And now may the God who makes all things new give you, on the pulse of this new day, the grace to look up, to look out, and to see the brightness and the newness of mercy all around you. Amen. Go in peace, open your hearts. Thanks be to God.